We will be live for the entirety of the 2024 NFL Draft. Every pick, every round, every day, and then, of course, undrafted free agency the day after. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you do not miss out on all of our awesome NFL Draft coverage. We will be live 2 hours before the draft gets going on Thursday. Hit that sub button right now. On today's NFL Daily, we will break down the Mel Kiper final NFL Draft Big Board. We'll do his top 32 since he went beyond his normal 25-man list that he normally cuts himself off at. No change at the top. It remains Caleb Williams, the quarterback out of USC. He will end up being, of course, the number one pick in this year's class. What is going to be different from others, including myself, is Jayden Daniels is number 2 on list. Mel's had him pretty highly ranked for a good portion of this draft process. He is the second overall player. He is my number 3 quarterback, though. We'll get to my number 2 later on in this video. Marvin Harrison Jr. checks in at the 3rd spot. That's actually my number 1 overall player. I know he didn't do a lot of the pre-draft stuff. You don't need to. He's going to be an easy top 5 pick this year. Odunze is the 4th ranked player and the number 2 receiver on this list. He's number 3 among receivers for me, but number 5 overall. Basically, what happened is Malik Nabers and Odunze kind of flip spots from that perspective. I'm actually super high on Nabers. I'll make note of my board. I have number 2 overall, so it seemed like maybe the Giants will end up getting a really good player there. Different spots in terms of the quarterback rankings, but both Mel and I have Drake Maye at number 6 overall. Curious where he goes. Is it New England? Is there a trade-up scenario? Is the Giants, the Vikings? Curious where Mel puts him in his final mock draft as well. Brock Bowers, number 7. Sometimes it's weird when you have the exact same spot and player and everything with Mel, and that's exactly what happened here. I've got him number 7. Joe Alt, the first offensive tackle on Mel's list, the number 1 ranked player there. Number 8 overall. These are all, I think, pretty easy consensus first-round picks. There's, of course, some difference of opinion, but most people are going to have those top 8 guys, at least 7 of the top 8 guys when I feel about the quarterbacks, Maye and Daniels, pretty highly up on their boards. Who do you think is the best prospect in the 2024 NFL Draft? That's the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes on YouTube, it's great. Ignore it. Go vote instead who you have as the best prospect in this year's class. Number 9 is Dallas Turner, the edge rusher out of Alabama. This is the first defensive player, and I think for many, the top-ranked defensive player on Mel's board. One of Mel's favorite players is Troy Fautanu out of Washington. There are a lot of things to like about his game, and I'll give Mel credit as well here. He was earlier on Fautanu than most people. He had him pretty highly up early on in the draft process, and he ended up cracking my top 15 as well. J.C. Latham. This is actually the first player on Mel's board I don't have a true first-round grade on. It's my cheater coward grade, first, second, where I'm scared and I'm going to be a baby about it. But he's still a top 25 player for me. I just worry a little bit about the athletic ability. Can he truly hang as an outside tackle, or does he have to move on the inside or not? Either way, he's going to go pretty low. I think he's a great fit for the Chargers, by the way, if they trade down. Latu, number 12 on this list. And I wonder, by the way, if Mel putting him so highly up on the board means he got pretty good news on the medical side. Maybe he did. Maybe he's just ignoring the medical altogether. That's going to be the determining factor. Because you can make an argument he's the best defensive player in the class. It's a question of, does that surgically repaired neck that got him medically disqualified at Washington hold up? Fashanu here out of Penn State, number 13 overall. I actually have him in my top 10. I know for many he's been kind of like a slider to an extent, like going from top 10 to, more top 15-ish range. But I see great athletic ability, great pass protection ability at left tackle. That's pretty good thing to have ranked pretty highly as far as I'm concerned. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry, maybe you're worrying about who your team's going to take this year, but you shouldn't have to worry about getting tickets to your next event. That goes for sports, that goes for concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, especially if you're waiting for prices to drop as the event gets closer. Two things I am a big fan of when it comes to game time. Number one is the view from your seat. It allows you to actually get a feel for where you're going to be sitting, and you can move your phone around kind of like a live photo to get the actual overall view so you know what to expect when you arrive. If you can find a zone deal for an event, you should absolutely do it. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings in the process. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but create your account at GameTime.co. Redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price, all guaranteed. Cooper DeJean is 14th on Mel's big board. This is, I think, a pretty consensus first-round pick. The concern that I have is, okay, how does he hold up in man coverage? The straight line athletic ability is really good. There is a reason why he skipped the agility drills altogether. I think there is a bit of a quarterback boost going on here, but J.J. McCarthy comes in at number 15 overall. He will be a divisive prospect because he wasn't asked to do a lot at Michigan, but he did make a bunch of plays on third down. The coaches all love him. He has arm strength. He has mobility. He has a tendency to struggle throwing more downfield to the left. I think that can be fixed with some minor, mostly footwork adjustment. Tends to be an overstrider. He's going to go early, maybe earlier than most even expect. Taliese Fuaga out of Oregon State. I love his game. I am higher on him than Mel is. I have him at 9th overall on my board. My concern going into the combine was we know he's a good power player. We know he has the arm length, which was kind of weird. Does he have the athletic ability? Those questions were answered for me. He tested incredibly well, and I feel good about his ability to hold up on an island at tackle. Brian Thomas Jr. at number 17 overall out of LSU. Again, you don't find players, there's a lot of these guys here, mostly come along the offensive line because you don't find guys who are that big and move quite that well. Well, Brian Thomas Jr. is certainly one of them. Just under 6'4", ran in the 4.3s. We'll see where the fourth receiver ends up going behind the big three. I think he's going to go pretty early. Speaking of speed, Xavier Worthy, number 18 overall. He has the ability to just fly past corners. Now, he's undersized. He's really skinny, and that will be a turnoff for some teams, especially if that happened with John Ross, etc. But he's got a real chance to go in round one. I think at some point, if you're watching the ESPN broadcast for some reason and not our broadcast, you'll see, best player available, Xavier Worthy will be number 1. 19, Graham Barton out of Duke. Again, there is some disagreement on where he's going to end up playing. Is he a left guard? Is he a center? Can he hold up at tackle with some arm length concerns? I think center, where he played his freshman year, is going to be his best spot. Kind of under the radar because it was a pro day testing and not combine testing. Off the charts athletic ability. We're talking top tier stuff there. The tackles are going to go early. Where does a probably non-tackle end up going? Quinyon Mitchell at number 20. This is actually my number 1 corner as well. He cracked my top 15, though. He's actually number 11, which I was a little bit surprised he ended up being that when I stacked it all when it was said and done. Mitchell just ahead of Terrion Arnold, who is number 21 on Mel's board, 20th on my board. I've got my cheater first-round grade there. I think both guys have a real chance to be the first corner taken, depending on who's picking where. So who do you think is the first cornerback drafted this year? QM for Quinyon Mitchell or TA for Terrion Arnold? Jared Verse is number 22 on this list. He was actually my last first-round graded player. I have 18 first-round grades here. Most teams aren't going to get more than maybe 20 in a good year. Verse was a little inconsistent and streaky this year. There were some dominant games he was kind of MIA as well. But there's a lot of athletic ability and production to enjoy there. I am prepared to risk it all for Amarius Mims. The overall athletic ability, the size, when he has played, he's been very good. The line I keep coming back to is this. He's not raw. He's just inexperienced. But small sample sizes can be deceptive. Remember Cardell Jones, how good he looked in that playoff run and then was not good the next year? That's the downside you run into there, of course, different position, but that's the downside with Mims. Number 24 is Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington, and I don't think there was any player I struggled with in terms of evaluation and valuation than Penix. There's a lot to like as a pure drop-back pocket passer. He's got good arm strength. He's generally accurate. I think the precision sometimes wasn't the best, and he got bailed out by an elite supporting cast on the offensive line and at wide receiver. And there's the giant medical red flags. He's had multiple surgeries on his shoulders and knees. That's not a good thing for a quarterback. He's a little bit older, but he played awesome this past year for the Huskies. I think he goes round 1. I also think calling him the best-kept secret in the NFL draft was a wild statement to make because he just played in the college football playoff championship game and was the second place finisher for the Heisman Trophy. Everyone knows who he is. How is he a best kept? It didn't make any sense to me. But I think he's pretty clearly better than Bo Nix. I've got him over 20 spots ahead on my board. How many QBs do you think end up going in the first round? Sound off in the comments. Now, Mel normally does 25, but he did his big board, so we'll go to 32 for each of the first-round picks. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson is number 25 on my board. Or on Mel's board, he's 22 for me, so very similar grades from that standpoint. Edgerrin Cooper, and I'll make note, and I'll make this note a couple times overall. For me, at least, once I got out of, like, the top 25 guys on my board, I don't have any, like, I love this guy as a second-round grade. Like, it got really thin for me of, like, these are kind of all more mid to late second-round grades for the most part. That includes Texas A&M linebacker Edgerrin Cooper, 35th on the board for me. He is my top-ranked linebacker over guys like Peyton Wilson, Jr. Colson. But this range-ish gets a little bit thin of, like, I have to rank somebody that high. Byron Murphy out of Texas, I am actually much higher on. I've got him at 16 on my board. I was a little bit surprised Mel had him so low. There is a chance he goes in the top 10, depending on how the board falls for the Chicago Bears. Darius Robinson, 28th, 10 spots higher than what I have. I have him at 38. He's just a tweener. He was way better at defensive end this year as an edge rusher, but he also kind of doesn't have the great athletic ability to stay at edge. But he was better at edge than DT, but he profiles as a DT. It just makes him kind of a weird tweener. I think a team like Arizona, though, makes a lot of sense for him in the back end of the first round. Chop Robinson will have a lot of fans and people who don't like him. I have him at, again, second-round grade, so like I got to rank somebody highly. He's 26 for me. I love the athletic ability. That first step is special and frankly rare. It's going to be among the best in the NFL from day one. But despite that first step and all those athletic gifts, why wasn't he getting sacks or even that great of pressure rates? Like that's a concern for me because you should do more with those gifts. Mel and I have Tyler Guyton graded almost identically. In fact, actually we do. We're both at 30 for him. Second-round grades. But he does scare me. I think he is more raw than he is in experience, though he hasn't played that much either. It's a question of, do the athletic gifts get developed in the NFL? For Mel, Bo Nix is number 31 overall. I have him at 86, so I think we'll just leave it at that. Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, in a absolutely loaded wide receiver class. I have not said this on air yet. I have 19 receivers in my top 100 this year, which is by far the most I've ever had. And that doesn't even include guys like Brendan Rice and more. Legette is receiver, quote-unquote, 12 for me, but he's also in my top 50. So, yeah, I don't actually hate that one at all. It really becomes a choose-your-own-adventure ice cream flavor thing when it comes to all of these incredible wide receivers. It's why maybe there's not a run on them in the mid to late part of round one, because they can slide down a little bit. So who did Mel Kiper leave off of his final NFL draft big board? Drop that player name for me in the comments section. Couple names that I am higher on, 4 of which I feel good about, 1 of which I do not, by the way. Johnny Newton at 15. This is Brian Branch 2.0 for me. The NFL can be dumb and allow this awesome defensive player to fall out of the first round, and someone's going to get a steal, or maybe late round 1, whatever. Maybe it's medical things there for Jackson Powers-Johnson out of Oregon. He was wildly productive and efficient and successful for the Ducks last year, But there are medical concerns there, from hamstring pull at the Senior Bowl to concussion history to shoulder to a hip. There's a lot of red flags that have to be vetted from that standpoint. Couple wide receivers I like a lot. Ladd McConkey and A.D. Mitchell are not the most productive, so they might not be as, if you like the Dynasty people, they're not going to be as high on them. But McConkey can do inside-outside stuff, freak athlete. A.D. Mitchell, freak athlete as well, especially given his size. Also separated by like 10 spots between Mel and I, so not that big of a difference. I ended up putting Kingsley Suamataia very close to Tyler Guyton because I kept coming back to this part. What's the difference? Both guys are kind of inexperienced, maybe more experienced for Kingsley Suamataia, but great athletes who need some technique work. They're kind of in the same boat for me. But again, once we get out of that top like 25, 27, like I have to rank somebody in the top 32. I don't feel great about it. I would much rather take him in round 2, like more where Mel has him, than at that 32nd overall spot. But for me, it's kind of a thin group. Remember to subscribe if you have not already. We'll be live here for the 2024 NFL Draft on Chat Sports.